All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Raleigh Planning Board meeting for Wednesday, June 13th, 2018. Our agenda, we have 3 continued public hearings and a new public hearing tonight, so without any further delay, we'll get started on the first item. The first item on the agenda is a continued public hearing, which is a site plan review for a large-scale solar photovoltaic facility at 623 Wethersfield Street, map 11, lot 53 in the outlying zoning district. I know we have some people here today that are people from the community that abut the property. We also have the applicant. And based on some recent information, I shouldn't say recent information, but a determination by the attorney for the town, we're in a situation where we, because of the recent amendment to the bylaw, it's this board's decision that we can no longer proceed on the applicant's request for a site plan review. The reason being, since we published notice that we intended to amend the bylaw, we have to consider any application pursuant to the amended bylaw, which was approved on April 30th by the town meeting. So for that reason, we have sent the request to the applicant to withdraw their application and resubmit an application for a special permit, which is what the amended bylaw now requires. And for that reason, as much as we're here today on this item, based on that decision, I don't think there's much we can do tonight to proceed on this case.
May I be heard?
Certainly may.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, common interest of the applicant. It's the applicant's position that the change in the bylaw is not effective, or actually illegal, as we stand here today, because it hasn't been approved by the Attorney General's office. And the Attorney General's office could not approve that bylaw. So it's my client's position that we should proceed until this happens, or there are other actions taken into consideration of everything we're going to receive. So we will have from the chairman. So we ask tonight is that we actually close the public hearing on the site plan review application. Consider issuing my client a provisional permit under the site plan application, provisional use permit, and also allow the chair to address the recent comments by Mr. Graham.
As much as and the board recognizes that this does create additional obstacles for the applicant, it wasn't certainly not the intent of the board to do that, yet we're bound by what we understand to be the rule, the governing law in this case. We've checked with town council, we've asked him to extensively look into this, and he's consistently stated that it's the publication date of the notice to amend the bylaw that becomes the effective date of when we should apply that new amended law.
Actually, he's been inconsistent on that. He said the publication a month ago, and then his most recent letter that I received last week said April 30th. But nevertheless, as we stand here tonight, the new bylaw is not effective. We're here for a scheduled meeting, and we would like to proceed quickly.
And yet, we're in a situation we're not able to procedurally to do that. We can't act on your site plan review because it's no longer, it's moot. It's no longer, I recognize, you know, it seems like you started this process and then the rules got changed out from under you. And frankly, I think that's exactly what had happened. But that doesn't mean, you know, we still nonetheless have to proceed under the rules that are in place today. And I recognize that there's a chance that the Attorney General could reject the amended bylaw, but that, you know, that the guidance we're receiving from council is that we can, we can't proceed on the site plan review.
I just want to make it clear that I obviously rejected it. I want to clear on the record that the bylaw, if it's approved by the Attorney General's office, does become effective as of April 30th. And in the event that the Attorney General doesn't approve it, you're effectively delaying my client's petition under the site plan, which my client has a right to proceed on.
Actually, that's your interpretation of the status of the law, but I believe the law is pretty clear in stating that it is the publication date of the notice that changes the rules under which we can decide these cases.
I understand there's a contradiction on the effective date, which should be revisited later, or we can report, but the point is, as we stand here tonight, that law is not effective. So you can't tell me that it's moved, I'm objecting to the fact that school is still there.
But I also don't see how we can create a procedure that we don't have, currently in place to give you any kind of a conditional approval. We don't have that.
That procedure is not in place as you unlawfully. It's in place is the old bylaw until it gets lawfully changed and approved by the attorney general. That's my point.
I mean, I think that's certainly your interpretation, but it's not the guidance we're getting from our counsel. So, as much as we're sitting here arguing this procedural aspect, I do think you've got a viable application, and it's something you've done a lot of work on, and I think that the board is ready to consider it, but we can't consider it as a site plan review. So I think that for that, and frankly, if we proceeded on your application, we'd have an attack from the other side, the people that are opposed to this, and they're going to tell us that we need to apply the bylaw that consistent with state law, and which is what I think we're doing.
Well, it is what it is, but it's attacking on the other side, the neighbors that the street refers to not.
Yeah.
As we stand here, the new bylaw is not effective, right? And I said that probably.
That's your opinion. That's your opinion.
I mean, and, so please proceed.
So, based on what I've already said, my client will not withdraw the application. And at this particular time, and she will keep all her options.
And as much as I'm disappointed to hear that, because I think the board was ready to proceed with a special permit review, and I think we've spelled out a manner by which you can do that. The board's also agreed to waive all the application fees and publication notice fees, and we've also made it clear to pass so that we can put this on the agenda for a review at the next meeting, taking into account what's gone forward. If you're not willing to do that, I think we're limited in what we can do tonight. And as much as, it's not ideal, I think we only have the choice to continue this.
Until such time as the attorney general.
Yeah, and at which point,
If the board is going to continue it, I would request it to continue it to the next meeting, not.
That's fine.
that being said, and I think we'll do that. Again, we're not trying to create undue obstacles here, but what's going to change between now and the next meeting? Because I think the opinion of the town's council is going to be consistent. Okay.
I appreciate the position of the board and the town council. I don't agree with town council's interpretation of freeze either.
Right.
I'm not prepared to get into it at this point in time. But
Right.
the fact of the matter is, we want to go forward tonight. If the board is not willing to go forward, we will continue to the next meeting and explore our options in the meantime. Bearing in mind, we did the board's letter yesterday, town council letter last week, so there hasn't been a lot of time.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I for my own self, would like to say that I think in retrospect, had we considered these things back in April or perhaps in March when this amendment was proposed, we might have gotten in front of this and had these conversations sooner. But as things unfolded and it became more apparent, the question became, which law do we apply? And as we considered that, we determined that if we could apply the dimensional requirements, which I think that was everyone's assumption, frankly, I thought the amendment wouldn't apply to this site plan review. We'd be doing this site plan review and then every subsequent one under the new amended bylaw. But as we started to scratch away at it, we realized that the new law applies. If the new law applies, it's no longer a site plan review. So that's how we came to the determination we have. Thanks. I just felt it was important to put that out to the people. Right. And to that end, I mean, I will say, I know you have considerations beyond just getting an approval out of this board because there's a timeline that's important to you. But I think all the progress that you've made on the project has put you in a much better position. And, had we all been clear on what the effect of the amendment was a couple of months ago, we probably would be at a point where we would be discussing an approval of this project at this point. But, you know, so, and I think we'd still be there perhaps in July, but if it's your decision not to proceed, then I think we have, you know, we'll take a vote to continue it.
I make a motion, we continue it to, what's the next meeting, Kurt?
Well, hang on, I was gonna say something, so maybe,
Kirk,
I mean,
Go 1 week
our
out.
town council, you know,
July 17th.
is saying one thing, if you say another, maybe one of the two better find some, what is it, case law you guys use or something?
Well, there's absolutely
has
been an
been-
effort
this
to
has been in
research
court.
this.
Without getting too far into it, I appreciate your question, and maybe the neighbors need to hear this, and maybe the board would like to hear it. I'm not sure if you see the town council's opinion, but very basically, the objection or the challenge to freezing the current zoning bylaw is the fact that the preliminary plan that's on for tonight's subdivision plan is not presented at a meeting or set for its meeting. The fact of the matter is, the preliminary plan is actually presented to the current plan with a check on Monday and it's served on the town council. And the statute does say the registered, planning board meeting or registered mail, but the intent purpose of that statute, because there are many planning boards in the state that don't staff an office, that have very limited hours. So it's the only way to ensure that the planning board, other than a meeting, actually gets the preliminary plan. Our case is, yeah, but the subdivision plan has the effect of freezing the land. So we actually have to. There is an issue that the relevance of finding all through the SRE, which is required, associated with that's the second. That's the second one. That the council made, and it's a good one. But I also think that can be resolved as well.
Yeah, resolve the submittal is incomplete at the time, so it has to be formally completed submittal, and the planning board has, and the idea of the series that we preliminary subdivision, the planning board would have to accept preliminary subdivision at the public meeting.
That's not what the statute or the regulations says.
That's correct.
That's half of it. There's a big war between the registered. I understand. I mean, that's just, I'm understood. I read it and I understand it. But you don't want to do it.
This is the goal to get an approved solar proposal.
Of course.
Well, why are we diddling around with legal stuff when you can go with the new route, and you're still before this board, working towards an approval, instead of delaying it?
That's something my client is considering as we speak. But I will say, just from my own perspective, that there are some issues that have been created outside of my client's control. And one of them, in my opinion, and I know it's not for this town council, is that there actually should be legal. Whether we have to go to court to get that, I'm not sure how that, what it is.
How does
I mean,
that,
there's a lot more to that than, and we're starting to get into some real esoteric areas of law. But there's, you know, even, you know, you may say April 30th was the date you filed, but council still says it was the date that we published notice of the intent to adopt an amended bylaw.
And again, I don't want to argue the point.
Yeah.
We talked about the effective date, case law is clear, so is the statute. It's as of the date of the town meeting. That's the subdivision bonds. We can argue all day long about the effective date.
Yeah, and that's one, I do need to look at that more carefully because you've been consistent in saying that he's inconsistent. I think he's been consistent, yet he focused on April 30th as related to the filing date of that subdivision.
Well, inconsistent on that one point, is what I meant in terms of the date. And I also want the board to know, my client, his intent, formally to obtain permits for the solar facility. And we're doing the best that we can based on the obstacles that have been thrown up against us with respect to the bylaw change and other matters. And we will proceed accordingly.
I hope you do, and encourage you to do that. And again, we've been back and forth on this. What you've put on the ground and on the plan at this point is, I can't speak for everybody here, but I think it's to a large degree, you've paid attention to what we've recommended, and we'd like to see it continue forward on that. And frankly, it's unfortunate that we can't have a conversation with what you have in front of us towards the site plan review, but we can't consider the site plan review until you file.
And the town council's.
That's correct. That's correct.
And we also, sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle because of the opposition, but this is a community benefit project, and it's beneficial for the town.
And as much as that's a factor, it doesn't, I don't think it changes, the position we're at is, we've been basically instructed to not take any more testimony on the site plan review and don't take any further action on it. So for that reason, I think we've got to consider the motions on the floor right now to continue. Do we have a second? All in favor? So thank you for, appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Okay. We have a request for continuance, so we have a motion to continue. So, motion by David, second by Troy. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Sure. I'm sorry. I'm just worried about the procedure right now because I'm supposed to be moving. We close this matter. Okay, and we have continued it, and for a reason, everything that we discussed is on file at the planning board. You can call Kirk or myself anytime, and we'll try to answer for you more specifically. The next meeting is going to be the 18th of July. But, okay? All right. The next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for the open space residential development, special permit site plan review of Michael Hart for 50 Newberry Road, map 5, lot 4 in the outlying zoning district. So for the applicant, I know Rob, who else is with you today?
Joe Abasamra from Ranger Engineering. I'm here just to review any questions.
So I know there was a little late in the game, but we did send over a technical review this morning.
Yeah.
I don't know if you... Yeah, we could please have... take it out in the hall.
Again, everybody, my name is Joe Abasamra from Ranger Engineering. I'm representing the applicant. We did get a chance to review all the things you guys sent over. The review engineer sent over his comments, and there wasn't anything major with that. We also got a draft from the town. I'm here to just address any issues that you guys may have, any more questions, any additional questions you guys may have about this project.
Well, if it's okay with you, what I think would be one efficient way to try to look at these things is to ask Mr. Graham, who prepared that report, to go through his comments, and would like, to see what you'd be able to do to address those things.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Graham, are you okay with taking it from here?
Larry Graham, H.L. Graham Associates, the technical reviewer for the planning board. Again, apologize for the lateness of this report, but we just haven't had the time to get into this and get the report out until this morning. I would agree with the letter response from Ranger Engineering that in general, the 45 plus items that were in our report are items of the nature that can be probably worked out between Ranger and ourselves. There are a few, though, that I think would bear some time and discussion with the board. And so I'll skip the more minor ones that I think can be worked out and get into the ones that I think bear some need for board discussion. Not for board discussion, but number 6, I requested some grades along Newberry Road, site distances to be shown on the plan, north and south. I see the grading, but I don't see spot grades, and it's a little difficult to properly assess the intersection needs there without that, so I'm going to stand firm on the need for spot grades, site distance, and as well, and it will be a condition of the approval that I'd recommend to the board. Part of the site distance is will be realized after the hill is graded back. The applicant will be responsible for doing that to affect the site distance that you're going to suggest will be attained by that action. I'm going to review the Zone 2 and the Municipal Watershed Protection District with Brent, because I'm a little confused about what your plan shows, Brent Baisley.
Before you move on to that, though, Larry, could you just go back to that? You mentioned comment 6, and what I see in your review letter is a comment not addressed, so that must be a comment from the prior review, am I right?
Yes, from a March 22nd review.
Okay, so, and that dealt with, I apologize, I don't have that prior review in front of me.
Yeah, road grades and site distance at the intersection with
With Newberry Road?
Newberry Road.
Okay. And
Jen,
to that end, has that been
Yeah,
considered?
Ranger, he commented, in the comment he said that was a problem here on the plan. Like Larry said, we can put that as a condition.
As far as, but, obviously, we want to see it on the plans, but more importantly, we want those site distances to be adequate. So you've done those investigations and measurements to determine that you do have.
Yeah, we have, and we're proposing grading back furthermore, and particularly what he wants to see is more spot grades, actual spot grades along the road to adequately tell the site distances. Right now, we just have the proposed grading. We don't show any actual spot grades down either way, either direction, which is easily doable.
Okay, so at least I understand what it is we're considering. Okay, thank you.
And then any question on the Zone 2 Watershed Protection District lines? I'll just confirm that the plan represents the proper lines of those districts and work with Brent on that. The comment 17 was about lighting. They're showing some 7 lights, I think, along the proposed private road. Their answer was that the light department will be providing that lighting if that's acceptable to the board. I mean, sometimes you do, instead of putting, the conventional Raleigh street lights in, request something different in nature.
They so we sat down with them on this. They actually put the whole plan together. the Raleigh Lighting Department.
And-
And it's the 15-foot lights that they have, Heritage Way and League over at, which they really like to see those as far as the lighting department goes, because they take them over at that point.
Well, that's what my letter suggested, that they provide the details for the board to approve the lighting.
Okay. That being said, if they're going to the light department, the light department only has one option for them.
Yeah.
It seems like that's something that, okay, so at least I understand that issue as well.
The next item I'd like to talk about is the number 18. The response was landscape renderings are provided herewith. I didn't see them in what was sent to me electronically. But the bottom line is whether or not the board is satisfied with the architectural and landscape plans that have been presented for the project, and whether, in fact, they're on record at the planning board office, because I don't have either.
So those were submitted today, they were waiting for responses. Those are submitted. I do have some of them here as well. We did take pictures out, we discussed this at the last meeting about screening, et cetera. We took a whole bunch of pictures of the lots that are up in the back. I think there's one more, you can see it, that lived out back. Couldn't even see the house from where we took some pictures, and we have them here as well. So the screening that we put in the landscape design, and there's also the trees and marked out, which I have here, I will give you guys. You know, where the existing lot is, the cul-de-sac, we have screening there, and then we have screening on the sides where we obviously needed the screening. On the back side, where lots 1, 4, I believe it's all along here, all the existing trees, you can't see anything. And like I said, we took photos of where we were standing on the lots.
Does your plan there, or
Do we have the?
do you have the landscape sheet?
Only on the small 11 by 17, 11 by, he's discussing these lots right here. This is, the house is way up front on this lot, and then this is mostly all woods. The only closest houses would be back here. And back here is the closest houses, and they're not even, this is not where our development actually is.
So, only because I happen to know that we have some abutters right here.
Yeah.
Is what they're proposing,
I think we'd like to see the plan if we could, because even though our house is at the top, we're 56 and Gray and we use the land that's down below, that's not where the house is. So
Yeah, the lower portion of it.
Plan.
I think at the last meeting, we asked for a landscape plan.
Which we had all set to go, and for the late delivery of put the whole package together. It was.
So we'll see it next time we get together.
So, shows, let's show a cul-de-sac. Like, these are photos that we took from the last site visit. These are showing from the lots as you look up to anything towards the back. So,
Okay, yeah.
It's very important, as you can see.
But part of that landscape plan should be what you're landscaping around, what's going around the individual houses.
That's shown on there.
I didn't see, maybe my eyes get more. Yeah, I don't see that. No landscaping around the houses.
Well, I guess what we do is we put it in and show like what the typical lot would look like, the markings.
I just don't see it.
Would you like to see a typical,
You take it.
one typical lot with all the bushes and everything, all the particular ones, and then we can say it's typical per one?
Because it's an OSRD.
Yeah.
Take a typical house, and if there are two typicals that are dramatically different, we do.
Mhm.
So there's something that we know are going in there for the future buyers.
Okay.
Been through a few projects which.
Nothing to say about.
You just got the response, so I haven't done anything others that we've seen.
What's that?
You just got the response back, so we haven't.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look on the plan you have in front of you, you can kind of see like lot 8, you know, it shows you know, the red maples that we're proposing to put in, the hemlocks, you know, a typical lot, but we did change them around a little, which is on here. So,
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he's asking for. This little plan that we made a copy of doesn't give any justice because it's supposed to be a full-size plan. That's exactly why. Yeah.
Architectural as well?
Well, I don't remember what it was. I don't know, do you have anything on file, Kurt?
we had submitted something a long time ago that you okayed, this was 3 months ago. We had typical pictures of the trees and which is on file. Well, yeah, that's one of them, but also we actually did photos and did 3D gen, which was, I would say, 2 or 3 months ago.
Better be treated. But is this what's going to get done?
Yes, yeah.
You have one for each type?
One for,
One rendering for each type, each model.
each model's gonna be very similar, some will be from the side, we're gonna change the garages around to the side. You know, some dormers over the fronts and stuff, which we've already submitted.
I'll take a look in Kurt's office.
Yeah,
It's going to get a good view of them.
Oh, I know that. Good.
Joe.
I was going to ask Joe to put the site plan back up. Could you just point out the proposed limit of clearing behind the first 4 homes? So it's
Right there, yeah, right there.
it's right to the property.
Pretty close, and you had a comment of, it wasn't these lots, but it was this lot down here, we could pull it up a little more. But this is, I think, is one of the abutters. This right here, their house is up here, probably 200 feet off, and then it dies down. It's actually really quite flat back here. That was their issue.
Necessarily quite agree with this landscape plan, which shows that maybe kind of a V up in there that might be maintained. Doesn't show trees, but it shows green as if perhaps that's not the limit of clearing. Should be pulled up closer to the homes.
Yeah, right up here, this limit clearing is probably not shown. It's going to be right through here.
So the plan should be corrected to that plan. While the butter is here and we were talking about their property, one of our comments back in March, and I would recommend it be put in prior to plan endorsement, was to require the recording of an easement for the driveway encroachment of their driveway on their property. They've shown it on their plan, but I would be recommending to the board that you have that in hand prior to plan endorsement, so.
If I can ask, Mr. Tenek, that's your property?
So we actually, part of our driveway is on their land, so we reached out to the Hearts.
Okay.
They never responded to people talking, they're happy to give it to us.
Oh, gotcha.
we're gonna do these.
I was concerned it was the other way around. As much as I understand you have your cooperation, there's more to it.
From us, and we've discussed it, and we've had discussions, so that's not a problem.
The home was purchased and we had no idea that the driveway
Sure.
was on there,
Yeah.
on the other
So
property.
we're happy to rectify it, because Michael Hart didn't respond when we asked, and that's okay, because he was planning to sell, so now that we are working to develop land.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
I agree, I think having it recorded would be nice.
Absolutely. Down the road, that could be pretty important to you. Okay, so, understood. And it sounds like, has someone drawn up that easement, or is it otherwise depicted on the plan?
We've depicted on the plan, there's no deeds or anything just yet,
Okay.
obviously. But yes, we've shown on this plan, there, it's really a little sliver of it. It's not a
It's
huge
just not
issue.
too wide.
It's just because it went a little wider out. Whoever paved it just went a little wider out.
So, and is that, I can't see the plan, is it noted as easement area?
Yes.
Not on this plan, but yes, it is, yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's a relatively easy
Yeah.
thing to accomplish at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. And more importantly, it's something that's entirely within your control to make happen. So,
And we've had
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
discussions with those guys, yeah.
very good.
Got more things on your list, Larry?
I think he does.
20 more.
Yeah. Okay, well,
The plans are showing a steel beam guardrail. I think that's mainly along about 200 feet of the drive on the left where they're dropping off sharply into that detention basin 1. I'm suggesting a wooden guardrail.
Which we're totally fine with that.
You want to keep it in your,
Yeah.
I'll work out with Brent again, the walking trail and parking spaces marking. I think that's more in the Concoms to get the open space back to or the people from the parking space back to the open space on that trail. I would like you, and you guys had it on your preliminary plan, to put the Sullivan
Up here, we're talking
layout up
about.
there. I mean, you have it in your CAD, so it
We already have it, we took it off just because it got too busy, but if you'd like to see it, it's very easy to put back
an
on.
inset or something, it
Yeah.
really helps me, and I think the board to see the relationship between the two developments.
It's a plan that we've submitted, I think we may have a submitted plan by right now.
Yeah.
Your plans call for a split rail fence that's primarily along the walking trail in the back around Lot 8. Your details call for a stockade fence with pickets, so I think a split rail is more appropriate. Sure. You don't need something that the wind's going to blow over anyway. They are proposing, and I don't have an objection to this, but I wanted the board to realize they're proposing a 4-foot-high fence around the 3 detention ponds.
as much as I read that, can you just give me the number so I can refer to it on your comments?
Oh, I'm sorry, number 29, I'm on. That's going to be kind of unsightly. Their calculations in their drainage report indicate a drawdown to those ponds within 24 hours, meaning that when they're filled from various storm events, that they're going to be dry within 24 hours. I'm not advocating not fencing them, but perhaps the one on the left side of the road, where the road is right beyond the guardrail, I think that might be an occasion where you would want it. I'm not so sure the ones way in the back, the one that Joe just pointed to, they're kind of in the middle and that one in the back, but I think the board should maybe deliberate a bit on that, whether you want that or not.
So,
what's the slope, Larry, on the,
3 to 1,
so it's very,
3 to 1.
Pretty gradual.
Except on that one that Joe's pointing to is 1 to 1. And it's a rock slope right off the edge of the road, so I think
maybe
it's,
it's something that's more appropriate to the character of the development. I think
I mean,
that's-
if you're already using stockade fences, then perhaps, probably split rail fence.
well, a split rail won't stop a kid.
That's right, and that was my next question.
And
The
a
purpose of
4-foot
this is,
fence might not either, but,
right, I mean, the purpose is clearly to avoid attractive nuisance.
Sure.
So,
I mean, we're okay with not, I mean, if the board in the back ones,
I will say we have other basins like this in developments without fences.
Golf course would be
Plenty.
like that.
Wild pastures.
I grew up with the.
But I think it's warranted on that
Yeah.
left side coming in. And
Yeah,
and maybe hook it around on both ends.
yeah.
The other, number 2 is kind of in the back of that lot there, and number 3 is in the back of Unit A, so, in the open
I
space.
suggested you skip those two. It'd be much more natural.
Yeah, I agree.
3 to 1.
but where it's 1 to 1, you stick with the 6-foot, or you think a 4-foot fence would be,
Well, you have the guardrail.
so, yeah, so it's gonna be behind the
It's going to be
guardrail.
behind the guardrail at
Right.
the top of the slope.
I mean, I think the guardrail and then another barrier would,
Yeah.
and I'm only thinking from the aesthetics of it, that 4 feet may be appropriate, but
I agree.
that's, Okay, I mean, that seems like something that's within your...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great.
So just to clarify, 1 4-foot guardrail just wraps around, right? 1 4-foot fence for this first one.
Erosion control, again, I'll go back with Brent, because again, that's more in the purview of the Conservation Commission, but I thought their plan was a little light on that.
What number are we on?
31.
31.
Okay.
I'll skip down to 36. Your response was the catch basin can be removed. I don't want it to be removed. It's needed, but it's right in the middle of the driveway. It just needs to be moved out of the driveway area. Number 43, I'll skip to,
Just get their comment back. I mean, as far as moving that catch basin, is that something that...
That would be no issue. It's right in the center of this. It's for lot 10. It's come right down the driveway. There'd be a catch basin in the middle of the driveway. We can either move it before it or after it. Most likely move
In
it
the roadway?
in the road. It'll still be on the gutter line.
Just not at the driveway.
Just not in the center of the driveway. We'd probably move it before it, so it's less than the 300 feet, because we have a second one down here anyway. That'd be no
I
issue.
like moving it,
Go up.
Further up.
west, yeah.
We're gonna make everyone happy once you give us a certain number of patients, you guys.
Number 43, I'll skip to, they were asking for a waiver to perform some soil testing for infiltration basin number 2. I can't recommend to the board that they waive that. That's actually a requirement of Massachusetts stormwater bylaw and standards, that you have at least 2 in every basin, which you have in the other 2, but you have none in that one. So I don't think there is room for the board to waive that. And then the application that was just before them this evening in the report that wasn't discussed, I'm asking for some clarification on the soil testing in their basin. So
For consistency, we
I'd
gotta...
like to comment on that if I could. We've done, I think it's 17 or 18 tests, and Ranger Engineering, there's been an average, there's a lot of sand out there. By doing this, now we have to go back to conservation. We're talking about a month and a half or so to be able to get this one test pit done for this retention pond. Like I said, out on this property, there's been, I think it's at least 17 test pits down. The board asked us to go back out and do more when we did them. And for the late, getting this back so late, it's just pushing us back again, asking us to do a test pit at this late hour. And like I said, we have to go in front of conservation again, file, spend the money on the advertisement and everything that goes along with it. And I believe, Joe can talk about this, the average of what...
These are test pits in the retention ponds, or groundwater retention ponds, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
How close to these, how close to the ponds have you dug other test pits that you're otherwise relying on?
it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, just not to
I
cut you
couldn't-
short,
you know,
but
I need that
according to
too.
the handbook,
Yeah.
you need to test where they are. I'd like to ask the question though, to Rob, why can you not go back out there and do it without going to concrete?
Well, Brent is required anytime that we wanted to go out there and disturb anything, that we have to get the approval through the contract.
But you're not in there.
We're in the water district, the level 2 water. That's why we had to do it the first time when you required us to do them the first time.
In the watershed protection district?
Yep.
It's okay.
Yep.
And when you got your permit to do all the other testing,
We didn't do, those were done before we bought the property. Those test pits were already
but
filed.
you got permission to do some testing.
We got permission to do the last testing, but Brent walked the
Can't
property
you
with
just
us.
piggyback that on? I
guess
think-
we can ask, but
I think they should, and aren't you coming up a meeting with them too this week or next week?
next week, yep.
I mean, if it helps any, I'll speak to Brent and tell him what needs to be done and ask him to do it under what you already have for their approval, because as I read the Mass State standards, stormwater management standards, in handbook, you can't wait.
We can't waive it, we can't waive it.
No. But I'll speak to Brent and see if that helps.
That's true.
Right.
Other than that, I think that between the Ranger's office and ourselves, we can probably address the remaining items that were in our letter. Again, I go back to the board to be sure that you're happy with the architectural and the landscape, and have it, on file, and have properly reviewed it, because that's something that I have not reviewed. And I would also say that between now and the next meeting, I can work with Kirk to draft up the special conditions for a certificate of vote for the board, if you'd like.
So I will, at this point add in though that the applicant has made a couple of requests to the board to keep this thing moving forward. I feel like we've had a pretty good gap between reviews, and I think that we put up the applicant in kind of left them without a lot of time to react here today. Yet we're holding potentially, by us not having an action today, they can't move to the next board with anything upon which they can submit as an approved plan from here, so they can proceed to the next step. I wanted to go through this list today to determine how far off we are, and I do see that there are some things that are obviously got to go back to, back to the engineers to work on. But I wonder, and I want to have the board consider, could we consider a vote today with some of these conditions spelled out, requiring their further action, so that we're not holding up this permitting process to the middle of July and pushing them further out to conservation to follow. Because what started in January may not get approved until September at this rate.
No, either go to the regular meeting, in my opinion, or have a special meeting 2 weeks out, cut 2 weeks off.
Special meeting, that's something that's, I feel like, we're not trying, I don't want to do things unique to one application, but I think at the same time,
I'd like to just comment real quick, just so the board understands. We came to the last meeting, Mr. Graham obviously couldn't make it. The last meeting was kind of we didn't get any review whatsoever. We got it to Mr. Graham 2 weeks before, which is what we're supposed to do. We just received Mr. Graham's review at 10:30 this morning, 11 o'clock. My engineer pushed to get this done today. This all costs a lot of money. We're talking about 6.5 weeks ago that we submitted this to the board, to Mr. Graham. And no fault to Mr. Graham, he's busy, I get it. But to push us another month, we're okay with filing with whatever you guys, all these comments with Mr. Graham. I spoke with my engineer before we left, before I came here, and he said none of those were major issues for him. If I can get the test pit done, I'm not worried about the test pit passing whatsoever with the calculations, just because I've been out there when we've done the test pits. So, if that's something that's required by the Mass State, I'm okay with that, and anything else that the board wants to put in, but just to push it back to July 18th again. Who knows when Larry can review it again? Are we going to get it an hour before the next meeting and go through this again and push it to August? I don't know. So that's just, my feelings on it. And it gets expensive, very expensive. So.
and so your conservation meeting is next
Thursday.
Next Thursday?
Tuesday. It's Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I just want to respond to Rob's comments put to the board. He's correct in that these plans are dated 5/2, I believe. And I don't remember when I received them, but it was probably shortly thereafter. And I opened this by apologizing for the late arrival of the letter, our letter and review. However, it is the first review that I've had of the final plans. Mm-hmm. We have been through a preliminary plan review, conceptual yield plans, you'll recall, going back was kind of an obstacle we had to get over in the preliminary plan review. This is my first opportunity to look at the final plans.
Understood.
So, the second opportunity that we have to resolve these things with Rob's engineer and, to check things off, I think is going to go very quickly. So, I'll put myself in position of getting back to the board and a response letter within 10 days of receipt of revised plans.
I want to go back and look at the elevations of the buildings again, because it's from 2 months ago, and they were like pretty pictures, but not definitive in the sense of architectural elevations. But this one I saw tonight was much better.
We submitted all the elevations.
So what were you looking to get tonight? You were looking for?
Well, it's a snowball effect, because if we don't get this, we gotta go to conservation next Tuesday, so that meeting.
So the thing would be what, landscape plan?
What's that?
The landscape plan and the,
Yeah, I haven't seen,
Yeah.
and the other
I
comments.
haven't seen the landscape either.
Dave, did you look at your package?
I didn't see any elevations.
Yes, we submitted elevations, after our first meeting,
I've
you asked for.
seen some pretty pictures.
So I guess what I'm saying, we submitted elevations, a long time ago, You may not have in your packet, but we submitted it.
But they were sort of preliminary elevations, right?
They were submitted on, they showed them with lots and
Well, it's an OSRD, part of the thing is the benefit to the town,
But when we came in a month ago, it was a waste of our time. Paying my engineer to come, there was no review whatsoever of anything that was submitted. Frustrated is not the word, so.
When are you clear of conservation? You got a waiting period after that?
And I can't get conservation until I get approval from the board. I can't get the natural heritage until I get approval from the board. I can't move forward whatsoever. I can't give the 10 acres that I'm giving to the town until I get approval from the board. So, but.
So,
I mean, the only proposal I have, I'm willing to meet in 2 weeks.
I mean, you guys are getting stuff the day before, an hour before these meetings, and you're saying to me you're not getting anything. It's just, but whatever you guys want to do, we'll probably have to get attorneys involved and we'll go from there. I feel like we've been more than.
let me ask you this. Listen, I get your frustration. I understand our role in dragging this out longer than perhaps, I don't want to say dragging it out, but, we could have, had we had a review more quickly, perhaps could have gotten this done at a meeting sooner. How long will you need to respond to the comments that you received in this package today?
The physical comments, they were responded to today by Ben Osgood, the principal engineer on this. The only physical thing that we have to do is, that's a timeline, would be going out there and getting the test pit. That is the only physical thing that cannot be fixed by tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock.
But get updating of the plans too.
Yeah, sure.
We did those. We
Include,
can do those. We did most of them.
because what we're looking for at this point is those elevations, which I think you may have already submitted. We'll just make sure we have them. Landscape plan,
There's no plans in the pack, because I put that together.
That's woods, right?
Yeah, the renderings that were in the different areas of the house. Remember that? Any of them?
I gave my package to Mark because I printed out my own.
I don't see them.
So, the thing is, what you're ideally looking for today is a vote. We can't vote until we close the public meeting. If we close the public meeting, we can't take any more input on your plan. So, I think a vote at this point, as much as it's not what you wanted to hear, is premature, because we don't want to close the meeting because you haven't submitted. There's a few more things that we need to see. If we get these comments back, and Mr. Graham has said that he could get you a response within 10 days of submittal.
Do we have something that we done? Mr. Graham also, I spoke with him, he said he'd have something for me last Tuesday.
Sure.
As far as the drainage.
You'll have it.
What's that?
You'll have it. Let's shorten it up to 5.
What's that?
Let's shorten it up to 5. 5 days.
So what I'm saying is we can do.
I have to tell you, I know for it.
Sorry?
I know for it. Sorry, but it is what it is. I mean, if you get to that.
Mr. Chairman, these were the final plans, first time look at final plans. not the preliminaries, which we had responded to, and the final plans carried revisions which were in response to our comments.
But Larry, we were hoping to get responses at the last meeting. Because our requirement is to get them to you
This period
guys.
of time is not extraordinary.
What's that?
This period of time from start to finish is not extraordinary.
That's not what I'm getting at, is we came to the last meeting with nothing for no reason whatsoever.
So,
I don't
and
think that's true.
First, I'm not sure that, it has taken more time than a typical review. It's been a while since I've done an OSRD review, so, I can't actually recall the timeline it took, but I think 4 or 5 meetings is not at all unusual for this type of thing. What we're suggesting, though, and I think Mr. Graham's giving you a commitment here, we can put a meeting on before the end of this month to perhaps take another look at what you have to submit, close the public meeting, and move towards a vote. By that time, we've already put together a skeletal draft of a vote. We've seen that, but I knew coming into today's meeting that we'd have a burden here today to come up with quite a few conditions, and some of them, are frankly more than just conditioning. Some of them, I think we can deal with the easement without having to hold up the vote, but that's not the only one, and for that reason, we might as well see if we can.
What do you say, if you guys would do a special meeting with them?
So that's what I'm suggesting.
I'm okay, just the way.
Yeah, no, so what are you talking about here? 13th, the 20th, the 20th is, I think, that's putting too much pressure on both engineers. Can we go out to the 27th? Okay. We don't have to be on a Wednesday. Are you here that week?
Yeah, I'm actually scheduling the ZBA or ZRC meeting that week. Already on Tuesday, so we want to do a meeting that week.
Would have to be on Monday, the week of the 27th?
Yeah.
It's okay with me on a Monday. Just waking up from the weekend.
So that's the 25th.
Which that would work, because we have to get in front of the ZBA on the 29th, so.
What day?
29th.
So that would work?
That Monday would work for us, I believe so. Because we're already scheduling on it for the ZBA.
We're willing to,
I appreciate that very much, so.
is that realistic?
29th if
Well, actually, we're talking the 25th, but
25th, yeah.
nonetheless, we'd hope that you'd have comments to Mr. Graham by the 18th, which is next Monday.
Which all depend on the time we can get out there for the test.
And even that, you have an obligation to do the test pit. You have an obligation to make sure that it produces, a certain finding. We can condition for that, I think.
Yeah, I might be able to get it done. I'll remember. As long as Brent, if I go see Brent tomorrow and see if he's okay with it, then,
I don't see
He's
any-
gonna call Brent.
Yeah.
yeah. Larry, I can talk to him, and if he, let him know what we want to do, if he just says,
Have him
fine,
call
I'll
me.
shoot you a note. Yeah, okay.
Monday,
Monday, the
25th.
25th. I will certainly work toward cleaning the plans up with Ranger for that, as well as working with Kirk, because the board, I think, relies on me usually to do the special conditions.
Absolutely.
yeah.
To get everything to them, today's the 13th, by next Monday.
Well, the first question is how quickly they can get you their revised plans before you can comment back. And I think potentially you can get them to them as soon as Friday or Monday.
It'll be Friday or Monday, yeah, all depending on the test pit.
Yeah.
And most of the plans can even hinge on the test pit.
Yeah, I think if you do
can
everything
still
else
hinge
but
on
that,
it.
if you can't get that done, let's get them to me
Oh,
by the 18th.
yes,
Yeah.
most
Okay.
definitely by the, yeah.
Is that,
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you very much.
Larry, I know we kind of got off on a tangent here in the middle of this. Is there more of this review you'd like to try to, or do we kind of
No,
close
no.
out? Okay, good.
No, I would suggest, though, for the board, David looks more closely at this, the architectural landscape.
Those are my two.
Resubmit
Okay.
them,
Yep,
Rob,
absolutely.
just
I'll get
so
that.
we're not trying to pull stuff out of the
Absolutely,
files.
I'll put it
Okay.
all, we'll get it all
Or
together.
even, yeah, I mean,
Not a
certainly,
problem. We have
I'm not
everything.
asking you to run another set of plans.
Nope.
Maybe just if you're in the office,
No, we'll put it
make sure
together,
Kirk
so we
has
have
everything in the,
Yep,
okay.
absolutely.
Very good. Is there anybody else here? I know we spoke to Ms. Tenek, but is there anybody else that wants to comment on this plan? It's a little early for that. So, okay, I think we're going to take a motion.
Make a motion that we continue
Second.
to the 25th?
The
Monday, the
25th.
25th, at what time?
7:30?
Okay.
Okay, second? Second.
In the
All in
annex.
favor?
Annex building?
I think we can do that in the annex.
Yes.
Much cooler.
I was gonna say,
Yes.
is there a seat in the annex?
All right, very good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right, next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for a site plan review for the proposed Hydrant Regency Dog Kennel at 104 Newburyport Turnpike, map 14, lot 14.2, Business Light Industrial Zoning District. Mr. Barnhart, you're here today, how you doing? Very good. Last time you were here, we were waiting for the DOT to give you a curb cut permit. Where are you staying with that?
I believe Rich, Rich actually sent me an email today, saying that the ongoing process, apparently it hasn't been completed yet, and so he's trying to get a report from Mass Highway, but he hasn't.
Have they given you any time frame for how that plays out?
I called and spoke to Rich, and I just asked him to call and relay the information that he had
Yeah.
pertaining to mascot approval for the curb cut on the two curbs, so that way it was just correct.
Gotcha. So, I mean, that's obviously an important aspect of the site plan review.
Yes.
Because right now where you're situated, you have some issues and you're gonna need to move that.
Yep.
At the same time, this has been going on for a long time, and the thing that has been an obstacle for me particularly, if not everybody else, is that there's an ongoing non-conforming use, and I think you're aware of it, and that's this trailer. So right now, for well over a year, you've been operating the business out of on a site that's not in conformity with the zoning bylaw. And you can't get to the point where you can even request approval for that non-conforming building until you get this approval. So I'm, at a point where I'd like to see us move it towards a vote, subject to your DOT approval, so that you can deal with the Board of Selectmen.
Yes, so an approval based upon the condition of the approval from the state for the curb cut, correct?
It would be an approval based on your last submission,
Yes.
but conditioned upon
The permit.
the permit.
Yes.
And keeping in mind, if the state doesn't approve it, then your plan is, you can't move forward on your plan because because it's conditioned on the state approving what you intend to do.
Oh, so it would be like this, right? Just like 314 and 317?
But you'd be back before us with an alternate plan.
Right.
Okay.
I just can't understand the state taking this long.
I can.
You can? Did it take that long?
When it was slow when I did my place, it took like a year. Imagine how busy they are now with all development. Look around. Huh. I'm sure they didn't hire any extra help.
So I can't imagine, Mr. Graham, that you've looked at this in the last week to refresh where we
I
were.
haven't looked at it in the last couple of months.
Exactly, that's what
And I think that I think there might have been a few trailing things in that last report a couple of months ago, but I
Right.
think most everything was taken care of.
Okay, so,
Obviously, nothing's going to happen without me coming back to the board, getting permits and I need, so.
well, and yet, the thing is, as long as we don't act, you, I guess, are, acting in violation of the law by having that mobile building on site. And, and frankly, that offends the bylaw. So you're,
That's right, so 314, 317, there was that cargo container right next to that creek.
I'm not here to talk about other sites.
Oh, no, we should talk about that, because I was interested in that property, and I was declining that property, okay? So, that cargo container so happened to be moved over next door into the driveway of the house. How was
I actually
that
have
possible?
no idea, and I frankly don't want to go there, okay? So if that's where you want to go,
It is.
so.
You know, just like the doggy daycare where all the dogs play and poop and pee, it's right next to the creek. Am I correct or not? Is there a buffer, a 50 foot or 100 foot? That was a big problem, stopping me from moving to that location and getting that property.
Okay.
And
So you prefer us to just,
There's confusion about the reason you could have put in that property is because it was a kennel as opposed to a doggy daycare.
I was pretty much going to do the same thing that they were going to do. And
They're whatever.
well, I mean, Jesus.
but I'm sorry,
They're living in that building. Do you understand that?
do you understand that you put a structure on your site that is not permitted by the local ordinance? And it's violating the zoning ordinance. So I could ask the building inspector to go cause a cease and desist order to tit for tat, I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Tit for tat in what regard?
Because you're violating your own bylaws.
In what regard?
In what regard? They had a problem with me putting a kennel right there at 314 and 317th Street because of the creek next to the water supply. What do you think is happening now?
That's the reason they told you, because you were proposing an overnight kennel. They're not doing.
Come on, that's a cover. They're boarding dogs there overnight. I know that personally. And I took snapshots of everything on Facebook. Not only that, but they're occupying and living in that building at night.
I don't,
So what's going on?
I fail to see the relevance of that towards this
Oh,
discussion.
really? Now, the relevance is that I tried to get that property some time ago.
Okay.
And it cost me nearly.
Again, you're off the subject.
This is.
No,
this is really-
I'm on
this is-
subject.
No, you're not.
So
That's not it, because you know you're wrong.
No, we're not. We should do that.
Oh, you're not, really? So what does the
Mr.
bylaw
Barnett,
say?
you made it very clear what you'd like us to do at this point. We should close this meeting, we should review the plan that most recently submitted and take a vote on it. I think we ought to do that. Okay? And then you can then go deal with the Board of Selectmen and ask them to permit you to have a temporary building, to construct a building that you have no ability to move forward on. You're intending to operate your business out of a temporary structure, so long as you can do that. We have no interest in seeing you do that, because right now, you occupy a pretty important parcel of land in the city of Raleigh. And doing it out of a mobile trailer doesn't add any value to the town. I'm sorry?
I'm doing it out of the house.
Well, then I would suggest you remove the trailer from the property. I would suggest you do that.
317 in compliance.
I'm sorry, I fail to see the relevance of that, and I
You
don't,
approved it yourself.
pardon me?
You approved it yourself.
I'm sorry, again, I don't
It's
see the
all right.
relevance of it.
I do see the road.
But then, you know what? Well, so where are we at on this, guys? You have anything new today to add? Have you updated the plans? Have you responded to Mr. Graham's most recent comments?
My engineer will make an answer.
Okay, so I guess we can close this meeting. I'll take a motion to.
I make a motion to close the meeting.
Okay, correct. All in favor? Aye. We'll get back to you within 90 days with a response. All right. There was an item on the agenda for a preliminary subdivision concept plan for a 6-lot subdivision at 623 Weathersfield Street. Earlier, the applicant had requested we continue that matter, and we have, so if anyone's here for that, we'll be back on, you wait around that? weren't paying attention when we continued this.
Well, I thought I heard that, and I said that, but.
I'm sorry, that's, we did procedurally handle that at the request of the applicant.
Right, I got to hear some interesting things, so.
Very good. So, that matter has been continued to the July 18th meeting. Okay?
Awesome.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a new public hearing. Kirk, do you have the notice on that? So I'm going to read a notice of the public hearing in accordance with the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Raleigh Protected Zoning Bylaw, and the Raleigh Planning Board Rules and Regulations. The Raleigh Planning Board will conduct a public hearing on Wednesday, June 13th at 8:15 in the second floor meeting room of the Town Hall located at 139 Main Street in Raleigh, relative to the application for a special permit with site plan review for the operation of a registered medical marijuana dispensary, an RMD, and an operation of a marijuana retail establishment at the property located at 116-120 Newburyport Turnpike in the Adams Mall, also designated as Assessor's Map 114, Lot 27, and Assessor's Map 14, Lot 28, respectively. The property consists of 3.3 acres, which is multi-zoned retail zoning district in the front and the business light industrial zoning in the rear of the property. However, the building in which the above cited uses are proposed to operate is zoned for retail. The application has been submitted by Joseph McCarthy of the Ipswich Pharmaceutical Associates, Incorporated of Ipswich Pharmaceutical Associates at 53 Town Farm Road in Ipswich, on behalf of the property owner Kathleen Ullman of Elm Street, Boxford. The special permit with site plan review approval is required for a registered medical marijuana dispensary in retail zoning districts and for a marijuana retailer in the retail zoning district pursuant to the Raleigh zoning bylaw, section 4.6.3K and 4.6.30 respectively. Approval of this above cited uses shall be done pursuant to the requirements of the bylaw, section 4.3, marijuana not medically prescribed, and section 7.6 of the site plan review and 7.8 of special permits. Applications, plans, and any relative documents are on file with the Raleigh Planning Board and are available for public inspection at the Raleigh Planning Board office, Town Hall Annex, 39 Central Street, during public office hours. So for the applicant, who do we have?
Is that okay?
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to come in front of the planning board tonight. I would like to start with an update of the process that, can everybody hear me okay? That the process that's been going on. On the update, I know it was a little late today. I sent a revised operational plan to Kirk here, which is updated. The language of the chief, words were changed, like will, changed to shall, items like that on the page. With that, we also had, as required by the Cannabis Control Commission, we had to have two items. One is a host agreement signed by the Raleigh Selectmen and a community outreach program. We have the host agreement signed, it's been delivered, it's been approved by the Selectmen. Our community outreach meeting was advertised on the 1st of May in the Daily Newburyport paper. It's on page 13 or so, I think. It's a whole column. With that, it indicated where the outreach community program was going to be, questions that the folks who were interested would be able to ask, questions about security, about the version of product. And with that, we did have a showing of 3 people that came up and showed interest in the community outreach program. That was submitted also, a requirement to the to Debbie at the town office. It's required to send the visitors who come to the site, who sign in, a copy back to the selectmen to indicate that it was a true meeting. And that was held up at the site, up at 116, right? 116, yeah, 116 Newburyport Turnpike. and it was held from 6 to 8 p.m. With that, let's see, the community piece was done. We also submitted the traffic and access study that was performed by Bayside. With that, we had gone over with the engineers and talked with them about a site plan. After speaking with them, I'm going to ask the planning board for a waiver on the site plan. And the reason for the waiver would be that there is no change of use. There is no drainage changes, no septic changes, no landscape changes, and all the required curb cuts are all in place because of the existing businesses that are there. With the building itself, the architect will be there on the 1st of, at 1 o'clock on Monday to get us a final architectural plan. I had spoken with Mr. Ward on the layout, and he indicated that go forward with the planning board first, and because nothing is structural inside there with the pieces, we're replacing display cabinets and constructing some walls that Mr. Ward will have the architectural plans within the next week, but we won't do anything until that happens. Also, with regards to the commission, the cannabis, we were prioritized in the whole application process. There were a couple of reasons why we were prioritized. One, we're an existing RMD. Two, there's a section on there for disabled people. And three, there's a section on there for veterans. So we fit all the three billets. One an RMD, and the other I'm a 100% compensating disabled American veteran. That's all I have with regards to the with the updates.
So, Mr. McCarthy, you mentioned it's an existing retail establishment. There's going to be no change to the site. One thing I think is worth some consideration is the impact on the parking. Do you have any idea what you can expect in terms of average daily customer count?
Yes, we anticipate that we'd have 6 to 7 people hourly. The average person stays 10 to 15 minutes at a time. And because of the security that we have, one, we're not going to allow groups of people to just congregate inside of our, what we call, area of Sallyport, okay? And we know at the beginning that there's going to be a little bit of traffic. That's why we're allowing the chief to actually make that call, whether he would want to have a detail up there to control any type of traffic. Certainly, at the beginning, it's going to be a new piece. A lot of people are going to be showing up. We feel that in a week or two thereafter, particularly so with others opening up, then the traffic conditions will subside. No, we have not done a traffic report. There are indications. I think there was 49 spots on the site. That's what it said, 49 spots on the site. And we did...
We want to look at those counts again. I mean, I think that building may even be pre-existing. How long has the Adams Mall been there?
A long time.
88.
85. And has there been any amendment to the dimensional requirements or parking requirement? Okay. Unless we'd want to look at that again.
I should recuse myself because I'm working on another competing.
Fair enough.
Okay?
Yeah. Gotcha. We just took a recusal from Mr. Jakewood because he has a conflicting client.
I did want to point out, Mr. Graham.
Likewise, has a conflict, but at this point, and I think we'll take that into consideration when we decide about who we can have do any technical review that might be necessary.
So because of it, because it is an existing site, that the thing that would need to be reviewed would be the traffic study that was submitted along with, I think they already got that.
Right.
In the email. But we need to find an alternate engineer to take a look at that.
Right, okay. So that's, at this point, that's one thing we do have to get somebody to take a look at for us. We do have conflict out of the engineer that we ordinarily would send this type of work to. But with that said, we certainly have a Rolodex of people that we can retain to do that for us. Is there anyone from the community that hasn't, ma'am, if you just tell us who you are and where you live?
Jill Shivani, 6 Homestead Lane.
How are you?
First off, I wanted to ask just for clarification, what exactly is the hours of operation this facility is intended to do?
Our posted hours of operation are 8 to 8. Of course, that goes with regards to what the planning board indicates. We've proposed July and August,
I'm sorry, can you say 8 to 8?
Can you have
8 to 8.
dispensaries? Can you have two of those dispensaries in the same town? Yeah, I think we can.
7 days a week.
There's no like.
And during July and August, we propose to close at 1 p.m. in the afternoon.
I have a question. In the initial discussion on February 12th, when this was intended to be proposed to the Board of Selectmen, Selectman Pearson said that there was going to be a stipulation that this would be not opened during the hours of operation of the ice cream store.
That's,
I'm not sure when that comment was made.
It was February 12th.
We had had
May-
discussions about the proximity of the ice cream store to the proposed RMD, and there's been clarification from the Cannabis Control Commission that just, you know, only schools, daycare centers, those type of facilities, but just because kids may also go to ice cream stores, we're not redlining those ice cream, these businesses from those districts, you know, because of the fact that children tend to like ice cream. That does not establish a buffer area that we have, that
So
we can.
this was, it says that this was going to be approved by the selectmen as if it was contingent on that. So what was agreed upon was not initially what was said.
So
Including that, this is now.
I can tell you that in the package that's been submitted to us today, we have the letter of non-opposition from the Board of Selectmen, which was dated December 14th. So, and we're, you know, we, as much as we work with the Board of Selectmen, I'm not aware of everything that they've done on this, and I don't think that, you know, they've taken any action contrary to this application at this point.
may I address this? Yes? Okay, yes, we had proposed, and if you call Kirk's office, you can get a copy of this operational and safety plan. In that plan, it indicates that the IPA will close in July and August, right now, between 1 p.m. and 8 p.m. Okay, with that, it would be up for, we requested a review within 6 months. With that, we would go back to the planning board and discuss the planning board, because this is all if you go back to the selectmen, it is about a monetary issue. It has nothing to do with regards to, the Cannabis Commission has set the rulings. We volunteered to close during the time of the ice cream in July and August, but we also requested at some time to revisit that. But at this time, we will be closed between 1 and 8 p.m., July and August of this year.
So when this was initially agreed upon, though,
Pardon me?
when initially it was agreed upon that the town did, I don't understand when the.
Well, you probably wouldn't even have a permit before August, would you?
The permit before, from the Commonwealth? No, it would probably be around August or so.
Yeah, so you wouldn't be able to move it in
So,
July.
but we initially were intended on being open much earlier. And these negotiations had started early 17, I think maybe even late 16, and they were the conditions, and we never anticipated that we would not be open by this time.
Yeah, I do have a question. Are you going to have any control of I know, it's far-fetched, but anyone hanging around and then just walking from your place over the ice cream place, the kid, just kind of hanging out there smoking in the chairs with the kids around, that's kind of, my
Absolutely.
daughter, I do it with my daughter, and I'm just kind of against everything, that's how I am on that.
No, in the plan, it indicates there is security out there so that there will be no lingering. Anybody who, if they should be walking across there at 1 o'clock, I think they're in violation of whatever regulations the town puts out.
Well, if someone's there and they have like a 4-year-old who's not in school and it's like 11 o'clock in the morning or something, I don't know. Who would they
Okay,
complain to,
here's-
for instance?
I agree with you, but here's the situation. The situation is, this is an adult use. I cannot stop somebody in adult use, just like how I cannot stop somebody from cracking a beer in that parking lot. With a child who's gone to an ice cream spot or hitting a nip, that's the same problem
Yeah.
I
No,
have
know.
in the alcohol business as you would anticipate in the marijuana business, but I believe the marijuana business is not so. People who are coming to this industry now have a mentality of privacy and taking it home. That's what the trend is now. It is not a case that you're going to see somebody walking around getting stoned in the parking lot because they want to go and get an ice cream. The whole business is entirely different.
Do you know what the hours the ice cream facility is going to be open?
You'll have to take that up with the ice cream place.
I actually know.
Okay, then tell me, please.
He's going to end up renting the ice cream place.
So it's going to be open Monday through Thursday, noon to 9 p.m., and Friday through Sundays, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. So you're saying that you're going to be closed from 1 to 8.
Yes, ma'am, and,
What are the hours you will be open on those days?
pardon me?
What are the hours you plan to be open? You said you're going to be closed from 1 to 8. What hours are you planning to open?
What were the hours I gave you for operation?
No, you said 1 to 8 p.m. You will not be open in July.
We will be open from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. in July and August.
Ma'am, could you, only because you're referring to a letter from the Board of Selectmen that we haven't gotten yet, can you tell us what letter that is? You're referring to a letter or decision from the Board of Selectmen.
It was just, it was a quote from the,
Ms. McCarthy, what are we talking
Yes,
about?
there is no letter, there's no indication from the Board of Selectmen. That was a concession that I had worked out to be,
sir, he asked me, I'm just trying to.
Yeah, sure.
I was just directed to ask a question.
He said, it's when the Newbury Port News.
okay.
On February 12, 2018, and again, it referred to this as.
Because it's through the special permit process that we're going to set hours of operation, and we haven't
That's right.
received any of that guidance. If there's been an agreement, we're not,
No, I'm just saying, this is what was said in the news.
okay. So, I mean, as much as that's relevant, that's not necessarily binding on us at this point.
I'm just saying, here is what it says in print, the security discretion will be upheld, but not open, this is not supposed to be open during the retail hours when the neighboring ice cream store is open, a stipulation from selectmen. So I'm wondering, how did that get lost in all of this process? When did that get dropped?
It's not lost. If you look in the security and operational manual, you'll see it. Ask Kirk, it's for public access.
I can provide you the information.
So, but if you have the facility is going to be open from 8 a.m. to 1, what, are you planning to have hours after 8 p.m.?
Ma'am, what are the hours I indicated that we were going to be open?
8 a.m. to 1, is that the only hours is in the morning? It's not going to be open after
Between what months?
in July and August? You have 8 a.m. to 1 going to be closed, I mean open. You said that they're going to be closing from 1 to 8 p.m.
Well, it's really up to this board to set hours. I believe what he suggested, he'd like to have his hours of operation be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. He also said that during the months of July and August, for the first year, he would concede 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. during those months.
That, I would concede 1 PM to 8 PM during those months.
Closed?
Closed from
Yes,
1
yes,
PM to,
correct.
yes,
Yes,
correct.
so that you're open from 8
8 AM to 1 PM, correct.
And there is no opening up after 8 PM.
So my point is that if it's from 8 AM to 1 AM, they're open.
PM.
There will be an overlap, because the ice cream facility is going to be open on Monday to Thursdays from noon to 9 PM, and on Fridays through Saturday, they're going to be open from 11 AM to 9 PM. So there's going to be an overlap with your presence of your facility open.
But there's no law against it.
No, I'm just saying that it is going to be open at that time when there are the operations of the.
Which is the-
Maybe 200 feet, and there's a separation of a road.
I have a question. How many children would be at that facility without a parent?
There should be absolutely no children at that facility, because it's the adult's responsibility to keep the child away.
Right.
How many feet is that?
It's irrelevant
I mean,
as far as feet.
The building is within 200 feet of the other building. The two buildings are within 200 feet of each
I'm
other.
an attorney practicing in this area, actually resided in Colorado for about 2 years.
Sure,
So I was just asking about the distance because I've actually seen a lot of these stores
yeah.
and nobody hangs out from them. I mean, they'll be next to you.
I think they're probably going to come and get out of there as quick as they can. These are the first.
And the stores don't look in there for them.
We're under surveillance 24/7, and
Thank you. So, and as much as I sense your concern, I don't think he's obligated to prevent any overlap. In fact, he's not obligated to concede any aspect of his operating, of his business operations.
But the initial operations is the marijuana #1, but there's also in set as well for recreational, as well as that in your proposal.
yes, ma'am, that's in all the required bylaws and guidelines of the town of Rowley.
So, but we're going to be planning to have recreational,
That's what in fact, that's the permit we're considering this afternoon.
so if you have edibles that can be available for recreational use, that would be very easily consumed if someone wants to have those, and then they can ask to leave, but it's not to say that somebody couldn't be high, lingering around and wanting to have a pizza or ice cream as well, right? And that's where the children are.
I don't think you understand how well monitored this is. What you're telling me, the same scenario as a gentleman going into a liquor store and having a nip and getting in his car and going home. One, the adult who comes in there is an adult. He knows the laws, okay? And don't you think there is not going to be some type of surveillance when these people leave here to ensure that there is not some type of incapacitated individuals leaving? But it is the responsibility of the individual. One, there will be no consumption. It is all on camera. Everything is sealed right there prior to getting on the site. The vials are sealed. The chocolates are sealed. Everything is sealed. It meets all the requirements set forth by the Department of Public Health for safety in the commission, the Cannabis Commission.
That's the first part, but once they leave,
That's not, they are adults. When a person leaves a gun shop, when a person leaves a liquor store, okay, let's not put it on me. Let's put it on yourself and the adult, okay? This is where it gets way off the mark. It is the adult who has that responsibility. Let the adult take responsibility for what the adult does.
but the adults aren't always.
That's not my, ma'am, I cannot save the world. Can you save the world? Can I stop somebody?
Mr. McCarthy, probably best to leave it at that. I certainly understand your point. I think it's understood as well.
How old do you have to be able to
Adults
go?
are 18.
Okay.
Children that turn 18, they become the adults.
Who's asking the question?
How old do you have to be to be able to go
Okay, there are two stipulations here. One, there is a medicinal side, and there's a recreational side. Okay, the medicinal side is to where the dosages are completely different. Okay, the flour product is the same, the oil product is the same, but the chocolates and the edibles are a completely different dosage, okay? They have to be a minimum 18, or whatever the Commonwealth of Massachusetts card indicates that they are a medical patient. That also allows them to purchase product at a higher dosage than the recreational can. The example is a chocolate bar for a recreational individual would be a 5 milligrams per piece. For a medicinal individual, it could be 5 milligrams to 100 milligrams, because they're sick people. Now, the recreational side, 21. And in our report, it indicates you must have one of two pieces. You must have a valid driver's license or a state ID or a valid passport, or you're turned away. And you don't even get into the facility. It's an interlocked door system. If you don't show the proper IDs, sorry.
So 18 is for recreation and...
No. No, ma'am.
Repeat that.
Okay, I'll go back.
I think, no,
Do you want me to, maybe you can summarize it up a little bit better.
18, or whatever the state sets for medical, 21 for recreational.
I understand that. I couldn't understand the other way. So 21 is for the high school kid or college kid wants to go in there.
Right.
21 and you're in high school, you're in trouble, so.
You know.
So 21, you have to be 18 of legal recreation.
Yes, ma'am, just like alcohol.
And how would the 18 bar completely from only...
Well, it's the same process as,
They have that restriction, that's the restriction.
they're patients. Okay, they're patients, not adult use consumers.
Anybody else that, from the community that has any comments on this? So if not, then I think at this point, Mr. McCarthy, we need to continue this because we do need to have our engineer take a look at the traffic study that you submitted, and we may have some additional comments for you. We'll follow back up with you. We'd like us,
Great.
At this point, because Mr. Graham has a conflict, we've got to identify an engineer. I'm hoping we'd like to see him have a report back to us within 30 days of the next meeting. At this point, actually, I think the next meeting is over 30 days from now. We're looking at July 18th. Would that date work for you?
Whatever works in the schedule. I know peer reviews are very common, so it's important that everything is done with the requirements in the
Okay, so then
bylaws.
we're gonna, if I can,
I motion to continue until the July 18th meeting.
Second.
all in favor? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. What day would that be?
July 18th.
All right, thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good questions.
So, next item, we have Peter Termini, who's going to discuss with us and John Smolak to discuss pertaining to the property at Didex 395 Main Street. Nice to see you again. Very good. How are you? Good evening.
Members of the board, Director John Smolak, attorney for Dytex. Give me 1 second.
Sure. Can you guys bring their own tripod?
Yeah, it's safer that way. I just bring it, keep it right close.
You can see this.
Sure, thanks.
As some of the members of the board are aware, Dydex has been having some discussions with the town about the possibility of redeveloping their property. And I know it might be difficult to see, but it's at 395 Main Street. with an existing subdivision road here. Their existing building is around 24,000 square feet, beyond which is a parcel of land that's about 15 and a half acres in size, beyond which is the commuter rail station and the commuter rail to the rear. And
How big is the parcel to the rear?
it's
The undeveloped
a
parcel.
little over, well, the parcel to the rear with the 1.7 acre parcel here, total is a little under 17 acres in size. Okay. And Didax has, as you know, or may know, this has been at the site since around 1992 when it purchased the property. And the existing 24,000 square foot building was there at the time. And currently they're bursting at the seams and they need additional space. I don't think this site is the best site to expand on it for a number of reasons. And so the first issue is that they're looking for another site. They want to stay within the town of Brownlee. They want to build a 40,000 square foot building somewhere within the town. So again, they want to put their employees here, the 20 to 30 employees are here at the site, and they want to stay within the town. They want to develop something. So that's one issue that we're dealing with. The second issue is that I know that Mr. Trimley has had discussions informally with the town, and the Didax, what they'd like to do is reposition this property. They'd like to redevelop this property. There is interest from the town, we've heard, in converting this building for a municipal building, municipal use. And so over the past number of months, what we've been doing is we've been doing additional due diligence, taking a look at the files with the assistance of Kurt, and also doing survey, wetlands review, and so on, to see what we have for the purposes of building the property.
Can I ask, and I know that what's the current status of the zone? What's permitted out there presently?
Well, what's permanent here presently is the 24,000 square foot building. It's in the outlying district. There was a definitive approval that was granted back in 1985 that created two lots at the time, one of which is an existing residential lot that was approved with a variance for setback. And then the second lot was lot 2, was actually this entire area.
Okay.
That lot subsequently in 92 was created into two separate lots, lots 2A and lot 2B. And so the 1.7 acre lot is where the existing building is located.
2A?
Yeah, the 2A, and 2B is the balance of the property.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's a restriction on 2B.
Correct. There's in two separate ways. Yeah, there's within the subdivision covenant, there's a prohibition on developing the site until it would come back to the planning board.
Okay.
And if we're redeveloping, it would be before the board anyway, whether we would need to reconfigure the roadway or improve the roadway to meet current stormwater standards and other standards and the like. So there's a restriction in that regard, and also there's a restriction as a result of a Board of Appeals decision, which has a similar no-build condition. Mm-hmm. So in order to be able to redevelop, we'd have to revisit that with the planning board and zoning board of appeals if we were to redevelop that property. And so, so again, as I said, what we've been doing is we've been doing some additional due diligence, and we've delineated the wetlands. We'll be before the Conservation Commission next week. We filed land wrap, and these areas are all wetland areas, and so as you can see, again, this is the outline of the property. Most of it is upland area, and so most of it will be, there are buffer zones in these areas. You can't see that too well on it, but we hope to have that finalized shortly in terms of
What do you think your percentage, or how much upland versus wetland?
I don't have the acreage rate offhand, to be honest with you, so our engineer could be here tonight.
Sure.
But conceptually, what we're looking at is because of the fact that the station is here, when the MBTA took some additional property from the Didex parcel, there was a reserved easement for access. And so what we're thinking is that this is sort of a textbook example of a transit-oriented development site. And so we're very interested in pursuing something like that. We've looked at the zoning. It doesn't quite fit in terms of what we need. If we're looking to actually gift the building to the town, we need to have a commensurate density that will make it work financially. And so we were thinking that possibly we might be in the 40s in terms of the number of units on the 15 or the 16 acres. And we haven't come up with a design, an overall design, but what we have done is we've come up with just a preliminary concept, taking that same parcel, which includes the existing access, we would probably maintain, existing parking maintained with the existing building, but also create an extension that would allow for a loop for the existing houses, which could be duplexes and triplexes. Again, this is all concept, sort of cartoon level at this point, because we certainly want the town's, this board's input and other input from the town and the public. And so we haven't developed any designs for elevations. Again, we're just looking at a concept at this point that we'd love to have some reaction to. But last week we did meet with several members of the Board of Selectmen to have a discussion, and with Kirk as well as with Deborah Reed, to have a conceptual discussion of whether this is something that has interest and has legs. And I won't speak for them, but what I will say is that I think that we got some positive feedback from that meeting. So the suggestion was to come to this board initially to discuss this concept, and then perhaps look at tweaking the zoning with either an overlay district.
It seems like that's where this would need to go, because I think your transit-oriented community makes a lot of sense, and yet that's not something that they were thinking about when they adopted it, the bylaw, so it has to evolve a little bit to get to where we're able to do something like that.
Right, because we did look at the current zoning, and if you do an OSRD, we won't get the density that we would need, even with the density bonuses that you would have. And so we also looked at New England Village Development, and it almost works, but for a few tweaks.
Okay.
And so that's something else we're looking at. And I sort of envision this as sort of form over substance. Whatever you want to call it, there needs to be a few tweaks.
I see.
And
now, it sounds like you looked at a little more than we have preliminarily.
yeah.
Are there tweaks within the New England Village bylaw?
I think so.
I mean, perhaps consider short of adopting a whole new section of the bylaw for the transportation related.
Right. It could be whatever form we need to take, or we need to take this. I mean, we could try to work with the existing zoning, or we could do a map amendment with a text amendment that would be sort of an overlay district, which tweaks the New England Village Development District, but just call it a transit-oriented overlay district. Just minor tweaks, I think, in terms of density. And
We could certainly do an overlay district, so something that
yeah. Right. And so again, we're at the very preliminary stage. We need to eventually develop elevations. We want input from the board eventually when we start to put this together in a little more detail, because obviously we want the town to be accepting of whatever we develop in terms of a concept. And so nothing has been developed in terms of buildings.
Sure.
Again, this is a
No, I think that's
concept
yeah.
which has duplexes and triplexes.
Stick with the cartoons until we have something.
right.
So you didn't want to try to, like, do a little industrial park and increase the building, and, I don't know.
No, I think the town is very much interested in taking possession of the 24,000 square foot building. And so the idea was, at least conceptually, that Didacts would be willing to gift over that building in exchange of being able to develop this area to the rear of the site for multifamily use. And it could be duplexes, it could be triplexes, whatever makes sense.
But you wouldn't have any want of, like, making a little industrial park or something?
I don't think so, no.
I think
not
you
at this
have
point.
problems.
I mean, you have residential uses all around it.
Yeah.
This is all wetland here, and there's an area of critical environmental concern in this area, so it's a bit sensitive. In terms of density, we're constrained by Title 5, obviously.
No, as much as I think conceptually everybody appreciates the offer that is being extended in terms of acquiring the building, how do you deal with the quid pro quo aspect of we'll do this if you do that? I mean, is there any prohibition that we got to work around?
Well, town council is aware of this, and so they've communicated with the selectmen, at least on a preliminary basis. So I think that that's something which will sort of be done with,
Okay.
to make it work. And I envision that if in fact, we're looking at a rezoning. I think from a timing perspective, we're maybe talking about late fall, maybe early winter. This is special, that's what's discussed, but nothing is in stone. But there are a lot of steps, obviously, that we have to take before we got there. So,
And consistent with that, there is a ZRC meeting, zoning review committee meeting coming up. Maybe this is something that should go on the agenda. So if you want to,
Okay.
yeah.
no, that'd be great. And also, a couple things that, you know, for Didex to move, they have to find another site, they need to permit it, but they don't want to take that next step of permitting until they know that the zoning is in place to redevelop the existing site. So I know the town is as interested in doing some additional investigation of the building and the property as well.
Yeah.
At the appropriate time, but
So,
don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
sure, but I think, getting involved with the CRC at this point makes a lot of sense, because if it's going to follow a timeline that works for your client, it's best to get that moving.
Just off the top of my head, as an architect and urban designer degree, tying it to you have two focuses of connection. One is certainly the rapid transit, and we'd like to make that rapid transit a little bit better than it is right now, particularly on the weekend. And number two, of course, the Main Street. Then within the development, to keep the variety good and trying to get imagination, which is my favorite word, into the project. Maybe even ones, twos, and threes are mixed in, and a small affordable component added in there as an additional benefit, because affordable is really quite expensive these days anyway, so.
Yeah, we do want to sort of try to figure out, again, this was sort of laid out just simply to make sure that we get the numbers that we think we need to get to, but, you know, we want to have a focus, maybe if there's direct access to the station, we want to have that focus there, also a focus along the front. We have to take a look at the...
And that justifies the increase in density if it's focused on rapid transit too.
Yeah.
Because that parking lot
Yeah.
in the busy seasons really does take a lot more cars than it used to. I mean, I live within 600 feet of this, so I know how it works.
Yeah, and that's consistent with, as you know, other transit-oriented development projects that are around, but also, you know...
And rarely happens.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think this is a unique opportunity.
It is.
I'm not sure there are any other parcels along this line that are available to do something like this, so we certainly want to do it right, and we want to work with the town to see what we can do to come up with a solution, of course.
We just went through, participated in the Merrimack Valley Regional Housing Study, and we came up with some suggestions about how to meet the needs of the next coming decades, and that is certainly on that list of recommendations. So I think with, that behind us, I think you're going to find that the towns will be receptive to your proposals, as long as we do something that makes sense.
Because there's a need also for the elderly to move from their houses into a scaled down thing without leaving
Downsize, right?
their church, their facilities, council on aging, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Proximity.
Yeah, we haven't had a discussion of whether this is something that's age-restricted or whether it's unrestricted, so that's another dialogue we still need to have internally, because we have a market to it, we don't have a buyer at this point, so.
Sure.
Trying to keep all of our options open.
And that's certainly a decision that developers would have to make on their own, but it seems to me like age restricting, I mean, I'd rather see it be mixed to general population, but, that's something we decide on. Mr. Peterson, you have your hand up?
Yeah, Dave Peterson, a member of the board of selectmen. We've had a number of discussions with Didax, Mr. Germany, and the lawyer team last week. I mean, the concept we're very much agreeable with this plan for a couple of reasons. Number one is, when we first presented the proposal back, I don't know, a year and a half ago, we were told that we had really two choices for that building. They wanted to use the back land for sell it off for some kind of development. They could either tear down the building, which was a good building in good condition, or they were willing to donate it to the town. Obviously, the town badly needed office space. The conceptual plan here is that all the offices at the current annex would be able to move down that building. On top of that, the light department has expressed an interest in the downstairs, the basement area, which is a very large, wide open, they could use that for their trucks and move out of the current building on Summer Street. The town would then take control of that building to be used by a variety of services. If we can do that, that will eliminate the need for an elevator at the annex, which probably may never come anyway, but as Kirk can testify, anybody that works in that building down there, these offices are all squeezed into totally inadequate areas. So, and then the idea would be that we would make the council on aging could take over the whole first floor upon those offices moving down to Dydex. Dydex would provide us ready-made office space. It takes some money to make some minor renovations there, but we have better meeting spaces, better than this. A lot of office space, light department would facilitate their use. It's a win-win in terms of the town, and we were very pleased, the board was very pleased to understand that Dydex was wanting to stay in route. So
That was news.
our hope is that
Mix it all around with
yeah, we'd be losing tax money if the town takes that building, but we're going to gain tax money to build behind it. And if they stay in town and develop a new building, obviously that's going to be right. So it's really, at this conceptual point, it's a win for everyone. So the board really supported them at our meeting. And whether it takes a zoning change or overlay district, we weren't sure what would be required, but it's our recommendation. We all work together to move forward on this and come up with a plan that works for everybody. And the board kind of committed itself to doing whatever it takes to help the situation moving along. We discussed the town meeting for the time we want to do that. And obviously, it's a lot of input from the citizens and so on and so forth. And just to keep in mind that we want to keep the council on aging in the center school because if we don't keep using that building, nothing deteriorates in the past of the building that's not being used. So this would cover a lot of different, save the town a lot of money, cover a lot of different departments that need space and meeting space and so on and so forth. So at this point, without knowing what your board's going to do on the zoning board of appeals, it's obviously up to you people to make that decision on zoning and whatever they can do there. But I'm certainly intending to be at various meetings and speak in favor of this because I think it's a win-win for the town. And at this point, the concept, the board of selectmen didn't vote on it, but there was no opposition expressed in our
Thank you for bringing that up. Sir?
My name is Rick Twombly. I live at Deerfield Lane, which is real close to this proposed things here. I had a couple of concerns on this. Back in 1991, the owner of Raleigh Pudding back then tried to do the same thing. They got denied. Put a 24-unit over 50 development in. Now you're talking about 40. It just doesn't seem like that. Back then it was denied. Now they want to try to do the same thing. Dydex needs more room. If they got to amend it, to just add on to the building because they can easily go back. I live right next door and it's a work for Dydex and stuff. We just had concern that there's a lot of wetlands back there and some digging, a lot of things that got to get raised. There's a big pit in there that's back of my property abuts it and my son-in-law and daughter's down over the back. Near there's a kind of a deep pit. There's going to be a lot of digging out of there, and I don't know what they're going to do if this ever goes through. You're going to put some type of. Are you going to put some of this property into conservation? Because in the back there's a lot of wetlands. Where is all this water going to come out?
Every single one of those questions will be addressed.
There is concern about
Determine where the wetlands exist, and as we move forward with any project, every one of those, those are all areas of investigation by this board and the Conservation Commission. But there's quite a few steps between here and there.
It's nice because you don't hear all the ruckus that goes down into the train station down in the parking lot. It breaks hell out.
Is that right? No, I,
They're not, this is fun.
There's a lot of. We used to have 4 times a year, yes.
Well, that's because they got low-income housing areas.
so, I mean, and, please, if this looks likely is gonna proceed in some form or another, please keep coming to meetings and letting us know where you stand on these things. But, at this point, though, as you can hear from the Board of Selectmen, there's a lot of positives that come along with this kind of development, so we've got to take into concern the impact on everybody.
You don't do it for one, you gotta do it for this. 'Cause
That's right.
it's all pros and cons. You can say what happened back then, now I want to do it here, which is.
So I think at this point, though, the next step is to consider some options for the ZRC to look at. Okay, yeah, please do. You mentioned that Dydex may be looking for some other site in town. I have no idea what you might be. Be careful how that adds up. 'Cause the size of the facility you need to build there may be something that we need to look at zoning for as well.
I'm doing a search now.
Okay.
I've got a list of sites.
Oh, that was the old Schilling building.
I've got a list, and if you would not talk about the these conditions, I'll have to, I'm doing an analysis now.
Okay. I mean, how about?
Employees from this area, they want to stay.
Great. Well, okay. I mean, is there anything else we can? Thank you and appreciate what the client's trying to do here. It sounds like he's, if it all comes together, we'll make him citizen of the year.
Well, thanks, and we certainly work with this and try to address that.
Thank you.
Can't speak to what happened back in '91.
No, I think, as much as got to worry about precedent, that seems like pretty far over the. Nice seeing you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Yeah, not even tomorrow, but,
Very little. So,
okay, Monday, I'll stop by Monday, we'll look it up. Yeah, June 26th is. June 26th, oh, so we have time.
what I'm going to do is,
I'll attack you next week.
is there anything on the agenda that anyone's here for that we didn't get to, or is there? We certainly have time for it, but Kirk, do we know Herrick's coming in today?
It's actually, we were at the bottom of the,
Oh, okay.
the other business.
Oh, thank you, now I understand, right. The common driveway.
Yeah, for the common driveway for Dodge Road, they've actually are requesting that we do a certificate of compliance review. So we're gonna need to get out there and have Larry take a look and for the board maybe to do a site visit and make a determination of completion.
Makes sense, and
Have you submitted the as-built plans?
Not
or-
to know.
That's what, I'm sorry.
I'm not to know.
Okay.
okay. It's subject to the binding coat, right? At this point, it doesn't look like the final coat's on, or is it?
It's completed.
Is it? Okay.
I think,
So this point, then we just need to vote to get it over to Larry to have him take a look at it.
let Larry take a look at it and then meet out there.
Haven't seen anything.
No, it sounds like, do we need to take an official act to make that occur, or is
So
it?
let's set a date for, but maybe we should, we may want to have a date where we can meet out there and take a look at the site. Get Larry first.
I mean, I think that, I've been out there plenty of times, just because I tried to, take my walk down that way or otherwise, it looks great, and it's come together very nicely. And I've even seen Mr. Stone's project in the back is nearly complete too, and it came together good. And most importantly, just like we planned, you can't see much over the top, over that bluff that's back there. But I think if Mr. Graham is satisfied, after his own site visit, I don't know that we need to get the whole board out to see it.
Okay, so I'll get that to
Do
you.
you want us to put it on for the next meeting?
Yeah, to actually take a formal action to act on.
Is there, aside from needing this done, and I know we did condition certain stages of your development on improving the roadway, is there any timeline that you're trying to work with?
We do have a closing coming up, so we were hoping it could be completed. Because now, if it isn't, because Lot 2 owns the common drive, and it's the same buyer buying Lot 1 and Lot 2.
Okay,
We could actually put this on the June 25th meeting.
let's consider that. When's your closing?
I guess until after you are.
But,
Well, that gives me 12 days, I haven't seen anything yet.
that's true.
How long is it?
So that's,
And I got a heavy load now with the,
with this one.
with the 50. I'd like to say rallies, the only job I have.
I understand. All right, well, and short of having this approval, your buyer's gonna want some kind of a holdback or something to ensure they get
Right,
compliance.
they're very eager to get it started. They're builders, local builders that are doing both lots.
But, and, I'm just trying to think, if he's buying both lot 1 and 2, and lot 2 owns this driveway, he'd have common ownership over both. I mean, nonetheless, I know you need this approval, I'm just trying to figure out why it would necessarily hold up your closing.
The way I understood it, we have to have everything final on the common drive before
They get a building permit. I think that maybe, did we condition the issuance of a building permit on the approval of the as-built?
Well, the certificate of compliance, and you can't, but I guess. Is there a need for such a formal
Action?
certificate? I mean, I understand that the board needs to certify compliance with, but do we need to go through a full engineering review of the as-built? Can the board not on its own take a look at the site and determine that the common driveway is installed per the plans? I mean, do we need to do, I mean, I know what you're saying about certificate of compliance, having an engineering review, but is that not more for large-scale commercial rather than these,
Common driveway.
smaller-scale common driveway application? Is that not kind of overkill?
I mean, I'm not sure I contemplated a second technical review of the as-built, but, when we do a subdivision, we don't issue a final approval until we have a technical review.
But that's a subdivision.
Right.
Yeah.
When there's more than one user, probability of problem coming up later is greater than, possibly greater.
Okay.
And so the problem is we don't have another meeting until July 17th, and, well, we have considered it, we have a special meeting coming up more quickly. I don't think we have enough time to do the review. So I'm not sure, and yet that's the best we can do for you, I think. I know you're in here trying to get this done. Perhaps you can work with your buyer to somehow, do some form of holdback to guarantee that the approval comes through and allow him to move forward. But actually, I think we've conditioned issuance of building permits on the approval of this roadway, haven't we, Kirk?
Yeah.
Mr. Herrick, do you recollect if that was the condition?
No, it was.
I think it was too, yeah. So, I'm putting you in a situation, but the best we can do is about 5 weeks. Yeah.
what it's going to be.
When did you get the plans?
Well, we had the plans, since right around the last meeting, but we weren't able to get it on the last meeting,
Okay.
to schedule a certificate of compliance. So,
Gotcha. And we can't do anything without a meeting, so.
yeah.
Folks, I guess we'll see you on the 27th.
No way you can squeeze us in on the
It's,
special one?
it's,
What was the question?
they're really asking if you could add one more thing to your already full docket.
Yeah, for July 18th?
No, for the earlier meeting.
For the 25th.
So is it just the driveway?
It's just the driveway, yeah.
Is the driveway paved?
Well, I mean, that's a layman's view of it, and you're more than layman in this area, but, you know, isn't that?
Is that why you're asking for the sidewalk? Did you see if the driveway is paved? Is he doing a total review of the as-built?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm wondering if,
And when you see that the driveway is paved, they're in compliance?
I mean, for this kind of project, it's a bit much, I think. I mean,
I remember there was a
the
special
bylaw
permit,
is-
special
it says what the
permit,
bylaw is, but I
We
think
were just nervous about that, but as long as the driveway is paved,
It was fairly simple. I mean, I remember the approval
Yeah.
plans. And if I can get the plan, I have nothing at this point. If I can get it tomorrow, shoot for the 25th.
Well,
I'll tell you what, we're gonna make our best effort, we'll notify you if we have to continue, how about that?
Do you think
Put you on
that-
put you on for this month,
I'm sorry?
we will put you on for the 25th of this month, and if for some, Mr. Graham will make his best faith effort to get a review that we can make a decision on that date, and I think, I think there's a better chance than not that that'll happen, but if for some reason we can't, we'll notify and we'll continue it at that hearing to the next meeting, okay?
Can you have Thad, or somebody from his office deliver a copy to,
Yes.
I gave it for whatever.
I'm sorry?
We can get another.
I'm not in tomorrow, so I
You
can't.
going back to
take it.
your office tonight?
Well, if you want to, I wasn't, but if you want to follow me over there, I mean, I can get you.
That's the best way.
Okay, I'll tell you what, just put Larry off the hook, I'll follow you over there and bring him back to my office,
Okay.
and then I'll figure out a way to get him down to Larry's tomorrow, okay?
You saw
I'm not sure.
No, listen, if they're in his office, I can do that, okay? All right, so we'll do our best, and we'll let you know if we're getting hung up on something, okay?
And Dad said he could do a sidewalk anytime, so whenever
You know what,
it's convenient.
for the same reason,
I'm just gonna come down there if that's okay with you guys.
It's fine.
When I have time in the next, 10 days.
It's fine, thank
Okay.
you. We appreciate it.
thank you,
Thank you.
all right. Unfortunately, Reed Granite, who had looked at the 124 Newburyport Turnpike with the mixed-use project, is withdrawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, some of the engineering costs were too steep. So, I think we just have to take a vote to, motion withdraw,
Make a motion.
to accept the withdrawal without prejudice.
A second.
All in favor? That's unfortunate, that seemed like a nice project. Marion Way, what do we know about that?
That's actually a comprehensive permit application with the ZBA. And they forwarded over, it's a subdivision, it's actually in the packet there, I think you guys were looking at some of it. But I think this is gonna be something that needs to be peer reviewed. So the ZBA actually doesn't seem to, I don't think they contract on their own a technical review consultant, but I think a recommendation should be that they do in this case and have it peer reviewed.
They have the peer review, or
They have, yeah, to have them have
Ask
peer
us,
review.
and they get the person to pay for us.
I mean, I don't see where the planning, it wouldn't be the planning board, we should have
That's sort of wagon, but thank you.
to pay for the peer review.
I do, I live over here, though. Golf course is right here, and I'm right here. And that's what I thought it would be. The worst part about it is the, well, I shouldn't say the worst part, but right off the top, it's right on the corner that they have the, yeah. Remarkably, they said there's never been an accident on that roadway. I think there's a close call about 10 times a day, though. But I think that's the reason they're going 40B, because they, you know, they don't want to put up with some of the, you know, the objections that they could otherwise get. And, yeah, I mean, I do think we should recommend that they do a site plan, or probably a full technical review.
Yeah.
Get out there in the field and see where exactly this entryway is.
Confused. There's a left turn.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, I mean, the thing is, there's a house right here. The house right here. This guy's got a narrow. Well, it wouldn't, yeah, it might be right here. He's actually been working on a lot. Well, it's still old wood, but he keeps on,
You got the golf course in here,
Yeah.
and you cannot come out this way because that curve would be murder.
yeah. So, okay, so, I mean, as far as recommendations, I think that would be
I
appropriate.
mean, that's the main,
But I mean, is there any precedent for having them kick it over to us to review?
No, I mean, we shouldn't be doing the peer review for them, but, I mean, if they want to have Larry to do it, but I'm just saying that, it should be really up to the ZBA to actually pay for it,
Right.
from their budget for the peer review.
They're already clearing trees back there.
Not necessarily for that site, though.
But they're right in.
Yeah, they are. They have a forestry permit to pull down a lot of those trees in there. And if you go back, it looks like they're, you know, clear cutting.
You're clear cutting.
Yeah, but that's, I asked them about that, and they said, no, those are just, I guess, I don't know what they call them, dragways for clearing out. You know, that's consistent with forestry practices to do that, but it looks like they're creating,
A landing, whatever they call it.
yeah, yeah. Looks like a tornado went through there too, because I mean, it just knocked the trees down and almost bulldozed them into the ground.
All right, let's move on.
Let's move it along. Okay, so that's, is there anything else that we should be considering for that?
No, I just.
ZRC, CPC, you've already done.
Yeah, we did the CPC last time, since Cliff is no longer, well, David.
I'm still volunteer for
I guess
ZRC.
technically I should be reappointed, and then somebody needs to replace Cliff, on the ZRC.
On the ZRC. I mean, how often does that meet?
Once in a while.
Once in a while.
Yeah.
Okay. So if anybody, you know, has any interest, what the ZRC is, the zoning review committee, they meet to consider recommendations to amend the zoning bylaw. And frankly, there's a couple of things that I would like to see happen, so I'm considering, you know, throwing my hat into the ring unless there's somebody else that has a strong feeling about it.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll nominate myself.
There is a scheduled meeting this Tuesday, June 26th.
Fifth.
Good. June 20th.
Aye.
Okay. I don't know what I... Very good.
Trying to move
Well, I'm going to save us a bit in the end here. Certificate of compliance, we already discussed that. Kirk, we can do planner updates and invoices, minutes for about the 12th month in a row, we're going to boot, but I have a real solid plan to do that at the next meeting because it's going to be so short. Okay?
Feeling sick though.
And I have not seen the MVP.
Boating weather, right?
thing. I looked for it this afternoon after you told me.
Okay,
We'll go to the sandbox.
Let's pull that out then.
So we'll cover the MVPC
has
thing.
anybody had a chance, I mean, other than, has anybody had a
Did anybody see the
But I'm just
MVPC?
saying, MVPC is looking for us to make a formal recommendation to have the Board of Selectmen approve it. So
Okay.
they can get it to the state, so, I guess personally, I just wanna make sure, like, I sent it on, May 7th.
I don't know if anybody's had.
Can only say that I looked at I recollect what they've provided us, which is mostly a PowerPoint, but not necessarily
Yeah,
a.
they did a PowerPoint, but right before that PowerPoint, they sent out the actual document.
Might not have looked back. What do they want? They want more housing, like.
Well, they just want us to take a look at it, and if we have no problem.
It's all, and it's non-binding, and it doesn't create any new districts or
I
ordinance.
mean, I've been looking at it, it's a good document, there's no real issues that I can see in
What is it, what is it, like, more, less allowances or more allowances of what?
it. Affordable housing.
Elderly
It's a
too.
component of this housing production plan, which is, goes towards the affordable housing and,
Do that in new buildings, the train tracks.
That's right. And that's what, that's
I
right
could
in
do it-
line
I
with
could
what
do it
they.
next week.
I could print out everybody's copies, but it's actually, this is,
Put it in
What
a-
I said.
So Kirk, is the Board of Selectmen looking for, I mean,
it's like a.
We should have an industrial zone.
are they expecting, us to get that over to them before their next meeting?
Well, they were really wanting us to actually make a formal recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to approve it tonight, because otherwise, time-wise, they'd be waiting another month, I don't.
Do you have a copy of it?
Yeah, I would, because I've spent that time looking for this boat one.
Which reminds me, I got your rate.
Hopefully I'll get rid of that thing in
I
another
don't
couple
want
of
to
weeks.
triangles.
I mean,
I want a square salt box. That's what I want to see, a salt box.
Kirk,
I want a salt box.
you've reviewed this draft.
Yeah, I've been looking at it.
Everything about it is non-binding, right?
It's already.
It's not binding. When she was here before, she was.
housing production on the low income. It's just a
I
plan to
endorse
try to
it.
get us where we're at.
So, I'm going to make a motion that we recommend to the Board of Selectmen that they adopt this draft of the housing production plan produced by the Merrimack Valley. All in favor?
Abstain.
Do you abstain for,
I haven't seen it.
yep, okay.
I would go look at your email of May 7th. I sent it to
You
everybody.
said.
Motion to adjourn?
You said it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. You said.